48 Hours has covered this story extensively and broken news over the past year. Correspondent Erin Moriarty is here along with senior correspondent John Miller. As you know, he's a former deputy police commissioner in Los Angeles. Good morning.
Good morning.
So what does this mean and what will it change?
Well, I mean, realize this investigation has been going on almost 8 months, and they were hoping to end it this month. It really doesn't change a lot. What it does mean is that there is some new, credible evidence. It's enough to give investigators reasonable suspicion that Natalie Wood's death was not an accident, but there is not enough to say what it was. There's certainly not enough to say there was homicide. There's been a real change in the narratives. Back in 1981, everyone said, you know, there was rough seas and broken glass caused that. She took the dinghy. We noticed she was missing. We called the Coast Guard right away. Now that story has changed. The broken glass came from a fight. As soon as you hear that there's a fight on board, then those few bruises that were found on her body suddenly become more ominous. So there is reasonable suspicion. There's not enough to take this to actually say that there was a homicide.
Is there a new theory of the case, John?
There is a new open mind to what was fairly closed theory about the case because everybody had matching stories at the time. Now that the stories have split in different directions, Robert Wagner in his book told a different story than he told police. The captain of the boat is telling a different story than he told police. Where Christopher Walken is on this, we don't know as we sit here. But I think that really opens it up. The back end of that thought, though, is how could you make a case out of this? And it's a huge challenge. This is being done by Sheriff's Homicide. They are very competent people, a lot of experience. But even by the darkest version of this narrative, you don't have anybody saying, I saw anybody either beating anybody up or throwing anybody off a boat. What you do have is the captain saying there were things that could have been done. We could have gotten on the radio sooner. We could have called for help faster. We could have used the searchlight right away to look for her. And it was Robert Wagner who directed me not to, which is a different story than he told police.
Yeah, and the question really is not coming down so much, really, the questions revolve not so much of what Robert Wagner might have done to Natalie Wood, but what he didn't do. So trying to bring charges, you know, it's been 30 years. So the statute of limitation bars most of these lesser charges. You'd need to have first or second degree. So I think it'd be very difficult.
So what then, and correct me if I'm wrong, but back when this was reopened in the late fall, when we started talking about it again, wasn't Robert Wagner, they said he was not a suspect.
He wasn't, but
so then given what you two have both laid out here, why then is there so much interest to reopen it? Is it simply because of the high profile nature of it? Because if there's not enough there to perhaps find a conclusion, the why comes up.
Well, I don't think they knew when they opened it up what they would find. And even that, when they initially said that he wasn't a suspect, I'm sure that has changed somewhat. They now want to talk to everyone who was on board because now it's undetermined. But I think there is a lot of public interest. I think that as the stories have changed, we see this all the time on 48 Hours, where one case looks resolved one way, and then after 30 years, people start telling the truth or a different story, and so cases get reopened.
As far as we know, have we heard from Chris Walken other than what he said to authorities at the time?
There was a Playboy interview, and his has changed a little bit, too. He said that the Coast Guard was called right away. On the second interview, he did not say that. His story changed a little bit from what he told the police and what he told Playboy interview. But he has not, as far as I know, spoken to anyone recently.
Erin, John, thank you both.
Thanks.